Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of r/ProRevenge. Hope you're all doing awesome today. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. Speed bump revenge. I'll try to keep the background detail as short as possible. My dad owned a small repair shop on a busy road, with a small single car width road at the back of the lot. Cars use the one-lane road to bypass slow traffic on the main thoroughfare. Despite buildings, mostly houses and garages, and fences just a few feet off the road, cars would fly through here. Speed limit was 15 miles per hour, but police clocked cars at over 70. As a result, there were lots of accidents and property damage. After a bunch of complaints, the city finally agreed to install speed bumps. In addition to the speed bumps, the entire road was redone. It took a couple of days and the temperatures were near 100 degrees. Our shop had air conditioning and a fridge stocked with sodas and water. We let the workers know they could come in and cool off or use the restroom at any time. A few times per day, we'd hand out cold drinks as well. It's a small town and we knew most of these guys. When it was finished, the road was brand new, and the new speed bumps painted bright yellow. It was a huge help with the speeding cars. There was just one problem. Our shop sat between two speed bumps, and the cars would still get quite a bit of speed between them. They were pretty far apart. Dad went out and painted a yellow stripe in the road behind our shop, about the width of the speed bumps. It was quite effective and fooled a majority of drivers, unless they drove that stretch often. There was one particular driver of a Mustang who would always speed between bumps. After being fooled by the fake stripe, he actually got out of his car and came into our shop to complain, shouting and threatening to kick everyone's ass. For the next week or so, he made sure to gun it each time he passed by, flipped us off, threw trash, etc. A couple of weeks later, the same street department workers stopped in and asked if the yellow stripe in the road was intended to look like a speed bump, and my dad explained to them about the cars speeding in between. They were adding additional speed bumps to another section of the road a few blocks up, and sent the truck over to dump some asphalt, giving us our very own speed bump. They painted it yellow and added a bump warning sign. They said to consider it a thank you for the air conditioning and cold drinks, and went on their way. The following morning, we arrived at work to find the neighbor's privacy fence damaged, and the remnants of Mr. Mustang's ground effects strewn everywhere. Turns out he did his daily speed run past our fake bump and encountered the real thing. The car sat really low, and it destroyed the ground effects, among some other things, and then he went off the road and took out a couple sections of privacy fence. There were deep gouges in the speed bump, so I can only imagine what else was damaged on the car. Mr. Mustang came in later that morning, fuming and threatening to sue. We told him to get bent. Never heard from him again. For the next few weeks, we did accumulate a nice collection of exhaust pipes, muffler pieces, and other assorted souvenirs from other drivers. Block me in, I'll block you in. So about a year ago, I was at a lake way north from where I live. I came back to the parking lot to find my car blocked in by someone who thought it was a genius idea to leave their car directly behind 3 parked cars. I was the middle car. Definitely couldn't get out. I waited and waited, and right before I was going to call a tow truck, a couple walks up and casually gets in the car and proceeds to drive off. I quickly backed up and circled around the other way to get to the parking lot exit first. I get to the exit and he's right behind me. I throw the car in park and just sit there. 10 seconds later, he's laying on the horn. Eventually, he gets out and walks up to my window and starts yelling profanities and telling me to get out of the way. Something to note here, there is only one exit in this parking lot, and the entrance, for some reason, has one-way spikes to prevent people from leaving that way. No idea why, since this is just the parking lot for a lake. Anyway, I cut him off and tell him he made me wait 17 minutes and 20 seconds. I timed it when he illegally blocked me in, and I intend to wait 17 minutes and 20 seconds to let him leave. He storms off, calls me a few names in the process, and floors it in reverse. He drives down to the entrance, and without noticing the spikes, I guess, drives right into them. I see his brake lights come on at the last minute, and pow, both front tires are done. I then decided 17 minutes was a waste of time, since he'd clearly be there longer than that, and so I left. Made the rest of my day feel much better. My ex-fiancé refused to respect my boundaries, so I married his best friend. Back in 2019, I just moved my long-term partner into my house, due to a series of poor life choices on his end. It had been a rocky relationship for most of its duration, but I was young and dumb. I believed this was him wanting to commit and truly start our lives. By early 2020, we were engaged. I was a full-time university student, sole caretaker for my mentally disabled mother, and taking care of the house and our pets. He worked a standard 40-hour-a-week minimum wage job and refused to help with any aspect of life. I found out on Christmas Day 2020 he had been unfaithful and had forgotten to tell me. He was planning on leaving me, but had informed everyone except for me, because he was failing to secure a new residence. Apparently his buddy didn't like him enough to let him move in. At this point, it was very little love lost, and I expected he would be moving out within the coming weeks. Fast forward 3 entire months, and his search for a living place was non-existent, and he was acting more and more entitled. Clearly, by this point, he is an unwelcomed freeloader who has taken up residence in my living room. I was about to secure an eviction notice to get him off my couch. He began swiping Tinder with his phone volume loudly on. I told him to not do that in my presence, as it was highly insensitive to do that in my home, and he could do it in private. This continued, so I told him I would sleep with one of his friends. It was said in a moment of anger and was more of an empty threat at the time. However, I am known for seeing goals to their completion. I messaged the guy who was supposedly my ex's best friend and the best man for the wedding. It turns out he didn't even consider my ex a close friend, and my ex had acted similarly terrible to this guy previously as well. We bonded over our terrible experience, hit it off really well in general, and started dating. I was upfront about what the catalyst for me to reach out to him was. After 2 years of dating, we were married April 2nd. He watched me graduate with that bachelor's degree my ex disliked. I'm halfway through my master's, and my husband works in a specialized steady field that supports us. Last I heard, my ex got kicked out of his dad's house, never was able to officially date his side chick, and has not made any choices to better his life. She's bankrupt, I'm debt-free. About 6 years ago, my former partner of 6 years and I broke up, and I started to realize all of the things I had normalized were actually abuse. Instances of gaslighting were all too prevalent. Even one instance where she gaslit me about what gaslighting even was. Financial. She could spend what she wanted, I had to ask permission. Even limiting time that I spent with my family and my best mate. There was more, but that's enough of that. After we broke up, I realized that money I had continued to place into our joint account wasn't going to the mortgage as promised, but was going to shopping, paying for her new partner, who it turned out was on the scene months before we split, and wasn't the first, and payments to her lawyer. When I found this out, I called the finance company handling our mortgage and told them I would no longer be making payments. I told them they could seize the house if they wanted, but my half of the payments would cease immediately until I had recouped the money stolen, roughly 5 months worth of payments. They said I couldn't do that. I told them to watch me. Soon after that, when the debt letters and dishonors started, the texts, phone calls, and voicemails from her started. I ignored every one. 2 months in, I heard her car broke down badly because she couldn't afford to maintain it. Not long after that, she filed for bankruptcy. A month later, she moved out and I got my house back. I cleaned it up, changed the locks, and got my mortgage back in front. And recently, my wife and I sold it for a tidy little profit. She got nothing. Not a dollar, not a dime. She has no usable credit rating, and my wife and I are debt-free with the deposit on our new home. Feels good. Knock down a grade 2 listed building without permission? Have the council planner's office deny all your applications for the next 99 years. I lived in a large village as a child. The village contained 4 shops, a post office, 2 pubs, a church, a primary school, and a really old grade 2 listed school. The Victorian school had been used as a library when I was a small child, but then was bought by a local business owner. And a quick bit of context, guys, a grade 2 listed building is defined as a UK building or structure that is of special interest, warranting every effort to preserve it. Anyone who lives in the UK knows there are very strict rules regarding what you can do with a grade 2 building. Number 1 rule is you can't do anything with it without planning permission. But this businessman thought he was above the law and knocked the school down one day without consent. The council gave him a huge fine at the time, but that was only the start. I audited the planning office last year and came across the file on this plot of land. In the past 40 years, the owner has submitted 11 plans to build on the land and has been denied every time. There is a note outlining the first offense and legal documents reminding planners that no building will be permitted on the land for the next 99 years. The owner knows this but keeps trying. There are notes on many failed legal actions taken. There is also a caveat that if the land is sold, all new applications will also be denied to the new owners. I also saw a recent request for the owner to repair the fencing and clean up the site, as it was a health and safety issue, and he will be fined if he doesn't comply. So the owner is now left with a plot of land he can't build on, and he can't sell it because nobody in our area wants land you can't build on. I also noticed that the same businessman was building houses in the same borough, and the council came out and made him move the footings of all 12 houses because they were not quite in the position agreed by the council planners. It must have cost him thousands. The moral of the story is people may not have long memories, but the local government does. Thief tried to steal my car, accidentally filled it up with gas and brought it back to me instead. My first car was a 1984 Jeep CJ7, a pretty sweet ride for a dirt-poor teenager in the 90s. I was working midnights at a gas station and loaned it to my brother who was taking a date to a party. I got a call around 1 a.m. from my brother who told me he left the keys in the Jeep and it was stolen. I was devastated. I was still on the phone with my brother when the thieves pulled my Jeep into my gas station to fill up on gas. As luck would have it, the gas gauge on my Jeep was broken and always read empty, and I worked at the only 24-hour gas station in the area. I pressed the silent alarm and proceeded to fill up my Jeep. It was a full-serve station. When the thieves were out of the Jeep, I saw an opportunity to slip the key out of the ignition and into my pocket. They paid for the gas and argued amongst each other who had the keys last. The delay was enough for the police to arrive. I had to explain the story to the officer half a dozen times before he understood. The thieves had the stunned look of disbelief on their faces I'll never forget. The cops were belly laughing, telling the story to dispatch. All the while, the thieves sat in cuffs in the back of the squad car. The story made most of the major newspapers the following day. That's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching, everyone. Be sure to hit that like button, I'd really appreciate it. And also, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So I'm out of here. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time.